This is the last setup. This works quite well. You can line up the piece of wood here that you want by placing a nice super flat edge such as this against it. Wiggle it backwards and forwards till you get the right angle. Take that away, brush it, keeping the little wood chips. Fire that up just to get any wood chips out, because you don't want a wood chip sitting on this as you go, because then it can whoop over and above, bounce around a bit. So I've done one pass there. This is just, I think, 45 degrees. I haven't measured it exactly. What I do is cut it, take it up to the side there, see if it's a bit too much one way or the other, then adjust it and do a final trim. To try and get it at the right angle first go is just about impossible. So holding this, I had all kinds of ways. One was holding it there and here and pushing. Dangerous, because your fingers get quite close to the blades. I did actually touch, a few weeks ago, touched a blade, just took a tiny nick out, but it's not a good idea. And it also tended to, trying to push down, this thing would wobble. So I've decided, after many efforts, that it's best to hold it in a more traditional fashion here. Get the cable so that it doesn't snag, set it going, and then just go slowly and smoothly, and all should be well. So let's give that a try. Check we're not anywhere near the cutting surface. Right, here we go. Seems okay. Try another pass. So it's coming along. It's not, this is going to be the good surface, this one is at the top. Sometimes you cut it with the board upside down, so the best surface will be the one at the bottom, which actually is the best surface at the moment, but you can see there's a few little bits here, so we need to come back a little bit. Not urgently important, because I've got 20 centimetres at the end there, so I can keep coming back and back and back, offering it up to the other section and seeing how it goes. So the stressful part is done. I can just keep on doing this. If I go too far or get the angle wrong, you just have to change it a bit. So brush away. There, it was catching on something. I didn't hear that cutting anything at all, so we can adjust the little knob here. One click, there we go. Now I'll cut a little bit more. again. And again. It's not cutting at all, so it probably means that this piece of wood is just, it's now too far that way, so we'd have to move it up to cut again. I'm just trying that one more go. Yeah, that's not cutting anymore, so we're obviously as far as we can go in that direction. So off we come with the clamp. Then we can try taking this up into position. See how we're doing. So, not very good at the moment. We've got roughly 45 degrees. Now, a straight edge tells me that this piece of wood on the left is straight. So this is not going straight. That seems to have gone, bulges there, but we've got more or less the right angle. It's a nice flush fit along here. It tends to burn, you know, couldn't get that any straighter, but that's all right. So, just checking. That seems pretty straight to me. Here, this is not absolutely, I can see there's a bit of a bulge, so that isn't flat. So just keep doing that over and over and over. That's a good surface. Keep fiddling until this bit meets up against it nicely. It's not too bad for a first go, but there we are, back. Right, that took several goes, probably about 15. Kept getting the angle slightly wrong, either a little bit too much or a little bit too little, but I think we've now got somewhere quite good. So if we look at this, that's nice and straight there. Come into the corner, and that's fairly good. There's the tiniest bit of a gap there, but it's, I don't think I'm going to get better than that. I could do it 100 more times. I think that'd be all right. So back along this side. And here, now this one is a little bit, it's not as good as the second one. I thought this was really good yesterday, but I'm not going to use the plane on that because I'll then make the angle wrong and it'll be backwards and forwards. I think what this is that the vertical edge is not absolutely straight, so I think I can probably just with a bit of sandpaper take a little bit off the underside bit there and close that up. But I think that with a bit of filler is probably going to do the trick. So what does the whole thing look like from back here? There we go. It's obviously very long at the edges. I haven't cut those off yet. Got to have a think about that as well. But there we are. Certainly better than trying to do it with the router, whatever you want to call it. There we go, switching off. Well, the difficult bits and pieces are now done. There's the join on the left hand side with the 45-degree mitre. Not looking too bad. There's the join on the right. The pieces of wood are not yet stuck together or fixed or glued down or anything, so they're just sitting there. Tempted to leave them there forever because it makes it so much easier. Trim down the edges, again using the planer, which makes a very nice smooth edge. You can't get too close, otherwise the focus goes, but just gently rounded the corners so that you don't cut yourself open if you bump into them. The other side sitting there. Some of the little knots and defects, which I think make oak look very nice, will need to be filled in with a wood filler. I have bought one, a special oak wood filler. There's one. Again, tiny little knot holes, such as these here. But by and large, I'm quite pleased with the way it's gone. Cost me about 120 quid, whereas the window shop, making it out of horrible bits of rough wood with just glued down and slapped together with silicone, would have cost 300. So thoroughly recommend doing it yourself if you can. What I'm doing here is practicing using a biscuit cutter. Biscuits are these little devices which you cut a groove in the wood, both the pieces. I've already done one over here, so that fits in there. So when you come to join the two pieces of wood together, the biscuits stop the wood from moving up and down this way, and you know, it's glued in, it's going to be pretty solid. But I haven't used this for about 4 or 5 years, so I'm just practicing, getting the hang of it. I'll set that height so that when it's sitting on the base here, that is about right. Little lines to line up, so you line up through the slot there. You can see exactly where you want it to go. Press it down there, switch on, makes a hell of a narrow racket. So there's the first one, cuts a nice neat little hole, and then we'll practice with the second, line that up. There we are. A few little bits have gone in my eyes, which always complicates the issue. Now, 2 biscuits we'll try. One in there, obviously that gets globbed in with glue. And the other piece, just a little trial. see there is a bit of play, so laterally you have a bit of adjustment, but obviously that will get the bits of wood nice and flush because the depth, the biscuit is the same depth below the top surface here as this one, so it will make sure that there's not much play up and down. I don't think there's much play up and down. If you try and wobble it up and down, it won't go. Sideways, yes. Quite a bit of play there, so you can settle it up before you let the glue get to work. Keep a bit of pressure on that while the glue sets, and that's going to stay forever without ever moving. So I was a bit worried about chipping or splintering, but I don't think that went in so cleanly. I think it's going to be all right. Obviously I've practiced a little bit there, but that's got a very rough edge, so it's a bit of a mess. But it doesn't look like there's any danger of it splitting, because I've got this thing clamped fairly sturdily, so I'll put the pieces of wood in. This is screwed down to the floor, which I can do because I'm going to sort the floor out later. So get that oriented exactly right. Put 2 of these, might even go to 3, I don't know. 3 would fit on a 45-degree. So I could go 1, 2, 3 to make absolutely certain nothing's ever going to move. If the wood decides to warp in years to come with the biscuits in, I suspect that will keep the thing from being distorted. So, a bit nerve-wracking tackling the real bits, because I've made taken a lot of care in getting the edges absolutely spot on. Which, if you remind you, that's where they're going to go. So we could put 1, 2, 3 biscuits in, and then obviously on the other side as well. Should do the trick. Pencil marks can be quite difficult to get out of or get off. Start that again. Pencil marks on the oak, I've tried, take a lot of sanding to remove. So I think it might be a cunning plan to put tape on it, put the pencil marks on the tape, and then we don't have to worry about a bit of a mess. So if I do 3 biscuits, I can then line up marks thus. I can't see behind that one, so might have to make the lines longer if I can't see them under the biscuit cutter, but that's the plan. Right, gonna have a try. There we go. That might be a little bit too, yep, that's slightly in the way. This little bit of wood is to just protect the surface in case I tighten this up too much. I don't want to put compression lines on the oak. It's not going to move, so I think that'll go. I think I might do the middle one first. So fingers crossed. somehow manages to have a load of stuff in there. If the blade is whizzing around in there, how come all that sawdust can stay? But, one of life's mysteries. So, that's not bad. Certainly no splintering or shattering or disasters. And I think the next one will be here. Okay, that's okay. That would have been a disaster if that had come out there, but we're all right. I will check that I have marked the other one up to not cause that problem. If it came out the back of that, it wouldn't matter because that's going to be hidden, but we don't want it to happen. And last one, press down. Not bad. 3 biscuits. 1, 2, 3. That's worked out quite well. The biscuit cutting in the mitre joins is complete, and I think it's worked out reasonably well. If I separate, here we go. You can see there they're sticking more in that one than the other two, but there's the biscuits in situ, and it does make a nice positive connection with the mitre join looking quite good. And this is the one on the other side. That's been done as well. So the next job is to just improve the height, elevation, whatever you'd like to call it. Here it's perfect. Both bits of wood are at the same angle, same level. But here, this one is slightly proud. So if I run my finger on my fingernail there, so that's going to need to be smoothed off a little bit. Just lower that down a tiny amount. It's going to be, on the looks of it, about a fraction of a millimetre. And that will use a cabinet scraper. We'll have a little go at doing that in a while. Another step that is required, although the join is fairly smooth that way, some of the board, this bit is, you see my fingernail catches there. I've levelled that off, so what we use is a cabinet scraper. So this bit of wood here needs to be smoothed off a bit so that it's the same level as that piece. So that's done with a cabinet scraper, which just shaves off. It's like a little mini plane, shaving off fine pieces. I wouldn't want to tackle this with a plane because that will gouge a piece in. So this will take a while, but just gently scrape away at the surface, so you can see here definitely catches there. Here it goes across, catches there a bit, so I need to take a smooth bit off this and a bit off this with our scraper. So the edge of this has got to be prepared. It's got to be burnished, smooth or flat, and then burnished. You can look that up on the internet. Scrape away. Obviously the biscuits that I put in yesterday will stop the pieces moving relative to each other, so in theory this should, some of the edges are better than others. That one, that's cutting. So it could take a few hours, who knows, but if you want it done right, it should be right. I've been doing that now for about 3/4 of an hour. If you remember, there was a little ridge here, but now if I take my fingernail, there is but the slightest of clicks as I go from one side to another. Probably could come off a bit there, but I've been working on this piece here more than anything. You can tell when the scraper is starting to get blunt and need to be redone when it doesn't take off any more shavings. Well, there we are, it's taking off quite a bit. I resurfaced it a few minutes ago. You have to be careful not to go across the grain on this piece. If you're coming in from the side, you've got to swing it round, otherwise it grates a bit, and obviously that's not going to do the surface any good. Certainly it doesn't stick. If I take this, and you see it can catch in the grain just as easily. So that minutest little catch there, that will probably go. Right, that's not cutting very well. So this is a new surface. That is pretty good. And of course I've got the other side to do. This has got the same thing here, smooth in the middle. Needn't worry too much about the far recess because there's going to be curtains or blinds coming down here, so that's hardly ever going to, it's obviously difficult to scrape in there, but I wouldn't like that is definitely a bit that needs to be smoothed off a bit.